G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to the round 16 review. Hope you all had a ripper of a round yourself this week. Look, for me, it was a bit of a dream round. 27-15's been the best round score I've had in a fair while. Also managed to go up around 1,500 spots in the ranks, just sitting outside the top 2K. 2,050 at the moment. So why was it such a good week? Well, I managed to avoid most of the injury carnage. I had 21 of my 22 premiums on field. English obviously off, with Paddy McCartan covering this week, who gave me a 70 odd, which is a pretty decent score as cover. And lots of my underperforming premiums, a couple of my pods as well, really stepped up this week. So I think that was a reason for my successful round. Will it happen next week? Probably not. I may crash and burn. Who knows with this game? It can change from week to week. But at this stage, sitting just outside the top 2K with 5 trades in the bank, I think I'm in a pretty decent position to make a little bit of an assault on the top 1K, probably towards the end of the season, I think. But look, that's it for me for now, guys. Hope that you're all well. Let's have a look at how the team's actually looking. So in our defensive line this week, we had 2 shining lights and unfortunately 4 underperforming premiums. So the man up the top, I was wrapped with his game. James Sicily, 139. The weather was absolutely horrid. So I think the game plan for this one was to simply get the ball, kick it long, try to gain some territory. And he is one of the best players in the comp at doing that. So a great week from Sis. Jack Sinclair, I put a tweet out at quarter time saying how fun is it to own this bloke when he's not copping any attention from the opposition. I was basically just waiting for it to come, but it didn't happen, and that resulted in him getting a 150. He's just such a damaging player, 30 plus possessions, so many inside 50s. There were a couple of times where he tried to bite off a little bit more than he could chew, but he did mention in the post-game interview that he's still being encouraged to try to do that. He will continue to take the game on, and a couple of mistakes will happen. But the fact that he scored a 150 is really made my week. Fantastic to own, and he's been great since I brought him into the side. Doherty, this was a really disappointing week from him, particularly when other players have someone like a Jordan Dawson. You look at that round score, I got 27-15, and think what this could have been if maybe you swap over a couple of players, but you can't do that. That is a game that we play. But Doherty, the reason why he only scored a 75 this week, in my opinion, was that kick count. So he's been averaging around 24 kicks last, I think it's 3 to 4 weeks. That was cut in half on the weekend, only the 12. His handball ratio was up a little, which is nice, but yeah, you can't manage to score 100 plus if you're only getting the ball or kicking the ball 12 times. So hopefully he can get that kick count up again, go 100 plus for us this week. Georgie Hewitt has been underperforming the past month. I don't know if Sammy Walsh has had something to do with this. I'm really not too sure, but where he got all his points this week was his tackles. So 10 tackles, a lot of defensive pressure, but just didn't get enough of the ball. So hopefully that possession count can go to that 25-30 again, still put those tackles on, and he should be getting those 110 plus. But a little bit concerned at the moment, but at the same time, a very highly owned player. Crispy, this was a disappointing game from him. I think around 3/4 time, he was on 39 to 40 points. So lucky he had a decent last quarter. If not for that, we could have been staring a 60 in the face, I think. Jaden Shaw, my advice would be, if you have enough trades in the bank and enough cash in the bank, it's time to move this bloke on. I thought, given the fact he's playing West Coast this week, he could go, 115 plus. It just didn't happen. He's just not looking good in that midfield role. I just wish they'd send him down back again. But Baker's playing really well there. I think they'll be loath to do that, to make that positional move. So, look, how many trades is enough to make a luxury trade at this stage? I might talk about that a little bit later. And again, this will just be my opinion, but I'm going to hold short for now and hopefully move him on in a couple of weeks if all things go well. Mr. Massimo, who saw this one coming after a couple of sort of low to mid 50s? He went bang with an 83. So he was on over 50 points at halftime. Many of us were thinking, can he get to triple figures here? Unfortunately, he couldn't, but an 83 is absolutely fantastic. So his job security, I think, is great at the moment. And if you've got him as defensive cover, I think he'll be, pretty good cover for the rest of the season. So absolutely wrapped with that. Are we worried about his price movement? Well, look, possibly. Maybe in 4 weeks, I could downgrade him, still keep on to someone like a Paddy McCartan, and make a luxury upgrade somewhere else. So, that is really good for any Massimo owners at this stage. And Dirksen, is just my loop to loop with Paddy McCartan up forward. In the midfield, well, it was a pretty obvious move this week, wasn't it? You had to have Clary as either your VC or your captain. That was the reason why I didn't put on a Lockie Neal or any of the Dogs blokes, because I knew that even if one of my vice captains, Neil, McRae, whoever it was, got a 120 to 130, you'd still be asking questions, wouldn't you? How big is Oliver going to go? So the play for me this week was to put the VC on Oliver, and my backup was going to be Shrek Darcy. So 176. It wasn't the double ton that we've seen the last couple of years, but he, along with Mr. Christian Petrarca, just ran riot. So I was expecting a big game. He delivered a big game, and congratulations if you did have him as either your VC or your captain this week. If you didn't, that would have hurt. Jack McRae, 104. Again, pretty mediocre. CBAs are a little bit down. Look, he's great one week for captaincy. I got a 150 off him not long ago. I think even last week it was a pretty decent score. But he's lacking that consistency, isn't he? So it's a bit of a risk having him as your captain, but you could still chuck a VC on him, I suppose, when the time's right. Lockie Neal, a great game from him, 135. So wasn't looking overly great at the start, but really, really pushed on. And I think he's got a good chance of taking another Brownlow home this year. So we've all got him, not a lot to discuss. If you had him as your VC and you took that 135, I think it was probably the right move to take that score. Really risky not taking 135, but at the same time, I think the mistake that you made was having the VC on him in the first place. You just had to go Clary this week, I think. Took a 153 after sort of struggling the last couple of weeks after that massive score against the Roos. He's hit back again. So, again, similar to McRae, the consistency probably isn't there. It's a little bit of pot luck if you have him in your captain loop. But, yeah, phenomenal game from him. 117.7 is unders on what I thought he'd deliver this year. I thought he had the potential to be our M1. But if you compare that to Clary, 131.2, there's a little bit of daylight there. So underperforming, but still a decent pick, I think, Took. Brayshaw, finally a big score as an owner, 134 points. He played a fantastic game, and I think where he got scaled up a lot was for a couple of really important defensive efforts. There was one later on the game where he laid a tackle, there was a turnover, led to a Freo goal, and laid a couple of really, really other important tackles on top of that. So a fantastic game from him, and similar to Lockie Neal, without a doubt in Brownlow contention this year. So I think he's owned by about 26% of the comp. He's a nice sort of pottish pick to have, I think, Brayshaw. Merritt, wow, he bounced back. I was bagging him for the last few weeks, saying he's a nothing pick. He's just not delivering. And bang, he comes out with a 140. So he did give me, I think it was a 111, 112 last week against West Coast, which was nice. So really a couple of solid weeks from Zerrett. Only got the 25 touches, but 3 goals. Really impacted the scoreboard this week, and that led to him getting his 140. So look, if he can go 115 from here, I would be absolutely stoked. But after one big game, I'm not really changing my opinion too much. I think that maybe a 110 from here if we're lucky. But don't be surprised to see him regress a little bit, I think. Wow, the track. Here we go. A 189. This bloke has been killing me the last month. And if you're a non-Christian Petrarca owner, particularly during the last month, you would have been patting yourself on the back and just watching the rest of us in absolute pain. But it would have been pretty painful for non-owners this week because he went bang with a 189. So 3 goals, similar to Merritt. So between Merritt and Petrarca this week, I got 6 goals. So that's always going to mean a pretty decent score, you think. But he absolutely dominated. I watched him the week before against Brisbane, pretty up close, and he looked good. He passed the eye test for me. I just said that he'd probably need to use the ball a little bit better. But the fact that he really impacted the scoreboard, got a heap of the pill, it was just a great week from him. So are we expecting 189s every week? Certainly not. But I did mention a couple of weeks ago that his average post by last year was really, really nice. This is a nice kickstart to his end of the year. So, yeah, fantastic from track. Cripper, this bloke is concerning me. I would love to move him out of my side. I was speaking to Spills on the weekend about a potential move that I might talk about later. I'm not willing to make it yet. I think he may be, though, so make sure you check out his round review this week. Clark, and so, look, I better talk a little bit more about Cripper. So why is this? Well, you look at his first 8 rounds this year, 13 goals in total. You look at his last 7 rounds, only the 3 goals. So that's a 10-goal differential. And what's a goal worth? Well, different situations, different points, but let's just say will go 12 points for each goal. That's 120 points. You add that on to his average, and it's looking a little bit rosier, isn't it? So things have just dried up with Cripps. He's not looking dynamic. He's not bursting out of the stoppage anymore like we've seen previously. Yeah, it's happened. It's happened. I think the thing that lots of us were concerned about was, hey, he could look good for a short amount of time and then just regress to what we saw last year or the year before. He's not going that bad. He hasn't slowed up that much, but yeah, certainly not confident with this pick at the moment. Clark didn't play. I think he'll probably be the bloke that I downgrade if I do look to make a luxury trade in the next couple of weeks. Rioli, the 29, it's a bit of a mixed bag with him. 20, 30, 60, 70, we're not sure. Just it's luck of the draw, I think, with Morris each week. Owens didn't play. And then into the rucks and the forwards. So this is where I got a bit of an advantage this week. So people have been struggling big time in their ruck line. Lots of people run with Timmy English, obviously out. There's still some Bruce owners, believe it or not, out there. I moved him on a while ago. I think that was definitely the best move. If you're still holding on to Bruce, it's absolutely killing you at the moment. Luke Jackson was obviously a laid out. That hurt a lot of coaches. Pods like Goldstein really underperformed. Unfortunately, the Big O only 3 out of 60. If you got a Rob, that would have been a pretty successful pick with a 127. But apart from that, you know, Shrek Darcy with a 124 and Nank with a 95. This is where I got a big advantage this week. Nank is a real pod pick. It's a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience not owning Jared Witts. I think about 90% of the top 5K are Witts owners. And having Nank as that pod, yeah, it worries me slightly. But if I put everything into account the last month, remember I brought in Nank when Witts had his bye, so I've got an extra week there. Nank has been a much, much better pick over the last month. So I think I've gained about 150 to 200 points just on that pick. So yeah, maybe I do need to have a few more drinks when I make my trade moves because that one's actually worked out pretty well short term. But the issue with Nank this week, and I'd peg this to be a pretty decent score, but Nick Nat came back out of all the weeks. Nick Nat is back against Richmond, and Nick Nat had a really, really solid game. So the fact that he still put out a 95, I'm really happy. He was on 60 at half time though, so I was looking to be on track for around 120. Didn't quite get to triple figures, but with all the carnage in the rucks lately, the fact that I'm a Nankona, I'm actually pretty happy. And Shrek, well, he gave away a few free kicks, which is a little bit frustrating. Missed a couple of goals, so this could have been a 150 type game from him. But again, I'm not going to complain with a 124. Played a really nice game, and for the first time in probably last month, actually looked damaging down the line. Took a few nice marks, which was good. And then the forward line, so yeah, not bad this week, but not great. Bond was okay without being fantastic with a 108. Lots of the dogs struggled during this game, though, pretty much apart from Libba, who would be a really nice pod to have this week. Cogs with a 105. Again, we already talked about the conditions when we talked about Sicily. Just terrible for football. So the fact that he got to triple figures, that's all good. Playing the role that we want him to. And I think, maybe wrong with this, but I think at least at half-time, three-quarter time, he was leading the Giants for tackles, which is good. So good to see he's putting on that defensive pressure. Will Brodie, 96. So again, got enough of the football. Played well. I think he was a little bit slow to start the game, though. That time on ground is still terrible, but we know what we're getting with the Brodie pick when it comes to time on ground. That's all good. Dunks, 100. Yeah, okay, we've all got him. Not much to discuss. Parker, 98. Had a pretty solid game, actually, but then tapered off a little bit. And Essendon certainly got their revenge this week. So congrats to Dons fans. You guys would have absolutely been celebrating. But I still think Parker's going to be a really, really solid pick. And Rapt, I've got him in the side. And Paddy McCartan, so a 72 on field this week was absolutely great, because if I look at Rioli, who I could have had there at 29, a Roses with a 49, I've gained about 20 to 30 points just on the Roses pick there. So I did the opposite last week. I rolled the dice on Roses after Paddy only delivered a 51, but wasn't going to make the same mistake this week. I thought I'll just start with McCartan on the field, have Roses as that emergency in case another player doesn't get up. So really happy. And yeah, that move of getting Dirksen as a loop into my back line, or into my forward line at the time, and being able to flip with McCartan, that's been really, really handy for me. So that's pretty much it, guys. When it comes to the luxury upgrade trades, I've got 5 in the bank. So pretty much the way that I look at things is we've got 7 weeks to go. So if I can not trade for a couple of weeks, fingers crossed, all my premiums stay fit, then I'm basically left with one trade that I can use each week for the last 5 weeks. If I get to, 5 rounds to go, then probably the plan will be to either upgrade a Short or a Cripper. So Short to a Dawson, maybe even a Stewart type when he comes back. And Cripper, well, it all depends on how much money you've got, etc. But I'd really, really love to own Rory Laird. That's a bit of a killer. So I'd love to either go a Dawson Stewart pick here and probably a Laird, maybe a Walsh pick for Paddy Cripps. The Rucks, look, do I look to go back to a Jared Witts if he hits form? Maybe that's something I could look at. But again, Nank's been outperforming him, so there's no reason to probably do that. And all of a sudden, I think I could probably just sideways Nank and Witts. I don't know what Witts' price is. But yeah, that's an option that I could look at. And the forward line, I'm pretty happy with. I don't think I'll look to make any trades there. I'd love to have Libba, but again, I'm happy with all the other blokes that I've got there. So that is how the team is actually looking. And the other move here, apart from Rory Laird, is maybe a Jack Steele. I'm about 2k away from doing that. And to be honest, if I could have done that this week in one trade and go Cripps to Steele, then I would have been very, very tempted. But I'm a couple of grand down. I just can't do it. And I'm pretty happy, as I said now, just to keep on to these 5 trades, keep them in the bank for a rainy day, because think back to last year, there was absolute carnage for the last 5 to 6 weeks, and all my trades just went out the window, all due to injuries as well. So that's it for now, guys. Hope that you had a rip around. If you've got any questions, leave them down there in the round review. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll see you soon for the round 16 stockies. So take care, guys. Hope all is well. See you soon. Bye.